how I explain it is, we have the freedom of Article 1 of the Outer Space Treaty that says the exploration and use of outer space shall be the province of all humankind. And balanced against that is Article 2 of the Outer Space Treaty that says the non-appropriation of resources and the appropriation of resources through claims of sovereignty by means of use or by any other means is prohibited. And you put those two together, you balance Article 1 and Article 2. Does that mean you can mine asteroids? I believe it does. Or, more nuanced, if you put those two together, Article 1 and Article 2, does it give a clear indication of what your rights are in outer space? Does it say yes, you can go and use those resources? Or is it a vague indication? Is it too vague to derive rights from the marrying of Article 1 and Article 2? And in such a case, and here we're getting into some real deep legal theory, the theory in international law, it's called the Lotus Principle. And if anyone wants to quickly jump ahead to understand a deep theory of international law, read the Lotus case from 1927. And essentially it says that restrictions upon the sovereignty of states shall not be presumed. And therefore, that which is not explicitly prohibited is therefore permitted. I'll say it again because it's a bit difficult logic. That which is not explicitly prohibited is therefore permitted. So absence a prohibition in international law or international space law, states are free to do what they want. And therefore, because there's no prohibition on the accessing of space resources, states, and therefore their non-governmental actors, are free to go ahead and mine asteroids. This is the approach taken by the US and by Luxembourg. It seems to accord with my understanding of Article 1 and Article 2. But perhaps international law is not that clear. Perhaps we do need some type of normative signal that yes, indeed, we can use resources in space. So this is really the discussion that has been in the background of space law for the last couple decades, but it's really starting to heat up in these last couple of years, and it will get more intense starting in 2020. We'll see.
Okay. That's the problem-solving process you described really takes me back to my late 20s and early 30s. I was running committees of council in my municipality, and you could solve the problem on different levels. You could wait for council to send you an inquiry, tell us about this, what should we do? You could go to staff and say, hey, we want you to come up with something on this. You could go to the community and create a group of community citizens and get information that way. And then have staff write a report based around those findings, which we did all the time, and send it up to council and tell them what you want. So there's different levels of applying this problem. So I'm going to check out that Lotus case, which you're using as a precedent.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's an early and fundamental case for students of international law, that through that so much will be explained to you. It's one you must know if you're going to talk about international law. It's like one of those hallowed cases. I think that the other thing, so when you get into, what happens on the national level, is it an excuse or a justification for behavior to say, well, no one said I couldn't, therefore, no one said you couldn't, therefore go ahead. In some cases, that seems to make logical common sense. No one said I couldn't do this, therefore, because I believe in freedom, I can go and do this activity. I'm willing to entertain that argument. It certainly seems sound. And then the even more, I would say, libertarian approach is the quote from Ayn Rand that says, the question is not who is going to let me, the question is who is going to stop me. Which is to say, I can do whatever I want until someone says I can't do it. And no one has said I can't do these things in space, and therefore I'm allowed to go and I'm going to go and do it. And this gets also a little bit closer to what I talk about as kind of the Silicon Valley mantra. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. These things certainly make sense if you are starting to boldly drive ahead. But I don't know if that's the right framework. If these approaches are the right approaches to outer space, where we have Article 6, where states are directly responsible for what their national activities,
Mhm.
where we have Article 2, where appropriation is prohibited, where we have Article 7, where states are potentially liable for physical damage, and where we have issues about militarization and
Mhm.
weaponization and security concerns in space, where this is a domain that militaries see it as primarily a military domain.
More engineers are not going to solve your problem. It's not a technical problem in that sense. It's a process problem. And the time to fix your processes was 20 months ago, and the second best time is today. This is Jason Kanigan, the president of Cold Star Technologies and the host of this podcast, the Cold Star Project, which is all about identifying and solving process problems for space companies, because that's what we do. And you can hear the entirety of this episode by following the link in the comment below.